I still remember that night like it happened yesterday. The table was full of noise, forks scraping, laughter echoing, and the smell of roasted chicken my mom always burned just a little. My brother Luke was talking about his new car, my sister Anna about her promotion. I sat quietly, like I always did, smiling when I was supposed to. Mom looked across the table and sighed. "Mark, you're the only one who never seems to have anything going on," she said. "Still working that little job of yours?" The way she said little made my chest tighten. Luke laughed. Anna rolled her eyes. "I'm doing all right," I said softly. "I keep busy." "That's what useless people say," Mom replied, shaking her head. "Sometimes I wonder if we spoiled you too much." The words landed harder than they should have. Everyone laughed again, and I forced a smile, pretending it didn't sting. They didn't know that the electricity keeping the lights above us bright came from the bills I'd quietly paid that morning. That dinner was the moment something in me changed. I didn't know it yet, but the so-called useless son was about to become unforgettable. The next morning, I woke up still hearing her words echoing in my head, useless. It was strange how one word could weigh so much. I tried to shake it off, telling myself Mom didn't mean it. But deep down, I knew she did. At breakfast, she stood by the sink, scrolling through her phone. "Luke's bringing me to dinner this weekend," she said proudly. "At that new seafood place." Then she glanced at me. "You probably can't afford that, right?" I didn't answer. I just kept sipping my coffee. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. "You're 32, Mark," she continued. "When are you going to make something of yourself?" That time, I met her eyes. "You think I haven't?" I asked. She laughed, a short, cold sound. "If you had, I'd know about it." I wanted to tell her about the money I'd sent last month, the car repairs I'd secretly covered for her, the rent I'd paid when she forgot. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I just said, "Maybe someday you'll see what I've done." She waved me off. "Talk is cheap, Mark. You should know, you've had enough practice." That was the moment I stopped trying to earn her approval. When I was younger, Mom used to tell people I was the quiet one. Back then, I thought she meant it kindly. I helped without being asked, mowed the lawn, fixed the leaky sink, took out the trash before she noticed. I didn't need praise, I just wanted peace. Dad left when I was 15. Luke was in college, Anna had her friends, and suddenly Mom and I were the only ones in the house. She cried for weeks, then stopped talking about him altogether. I started working part-time at the hardware store to help out. My paycheck went straight into groceries and bills. She never asked, but she never thanked me either. When Luke visited, she'd cook fancy meals and brag about him. "My son's going places," she'd say, smiling proudly. With me, it was always, "Mark, can you fix this?" or "Don't forget to pay that." I didn't mind back then. I thought being useful meant being loved. But over time, it became clear, I was only valuable when I made her life easier. Now, sitting alone at my kitchen table, I realized I'd built her comfort while she built my silence. And I was finally done being quiet. Every month, I kept a list. Rent, water, electricity, Mom's credit card minimum, Luke's emergency transfer. It was my secret ledger of invisible favors. I told myself it was what a good son did, keep the family running, even if no one noticed. When Mom's car broke down last winter, she cried on the phone about not affording repairs. I paid the mechanic directly. When Anna needed help with her student loans, I sent her half my savings. They all said thanks once, maybe twice, then forgot. I never expected more. But lately, I'd started to feel something I hadn't before, resentment. It crept in quietly, like a slow leak you don't notice until the floor's soaked. Every joke at my expense, every sigh of disappointment, it all pressed heavier on my chest. One night, I looked at my online banking app and saw the balance, lower than ever. I stared at it for a long time, realizing the truth, I wasn't being kind anymore. I was being used. And the worst part? I had taught them how to do it. That night, I decided to change the lesson. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I stopped by Mom's house to drop off a few groceries. She was sitting in the living room with Luke and Anna, laughing at something on Luke's phone. When I walked in, Luke smirked. "Hey, Mom, maybe Mark can finally pay for something useful, like a personality." They all laughed. Even Mom. I froze, the paper bags heavy in my hands. "That's enough," I said quietly. Mom rolled her eyes. "Oh, Mark, don't be so sensitive. We're just joking." "Jokes stop being funny when they hurt," I replied. She gave a short laugh. "You wouldn't understand. You've never had a real problem." That one stung more than I wanted to admit. I'd carried their problems for years, every unpaid bill, every small favor. I felt my patience slipping. I set the groceries down and looked at her. "You ever wonder who's been keeping this place running?" She frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I said, forcing a calm smile. "You'll find out soon enough." That was the first time I walked away from that house without guilt. I didn't know it yet, but I'd just taken my first step toward freedom. That night, I sat in my small apartment, staring at the ceiling. The silence was loud, but it felt cleaner than any laughter I'd heard in that house. I replayed every moment in my mind. Every insult, every time they took without asking, every smile I forced. Then I opened my laptop and looked at my budget sheet. For the first time in years, I deleted Mom's name, Luke's, and Anna's from my payments list. It felt strange at first, like cutting off air. But then came relief, steady and sure. I didn't send the usual transfer that month. No extra money, just in case. No secret payments to fix what they'd broken. If something went unpaid, it wouldn't be my problem anymore. I thought I'd feel guilty, but I didn't. I felt lighter. They had built a world where I existed only to serve. Now, I was choosing to exist for myself. That night, I promised something simple: no more silent rescues, no more quiet sacrifices. Mom once said I'd never make a real decision in my life. She was about to find out how wrong she was. The first week felt strange. My phone didn't buzz with thank yous, just questions. Mom texted, "Did the power bill go through?" I left it on read. A few days later, Luke called. "Hey, man, Mom's Wi-Fi got cut off. You forget to handle it." I almost laughed. Handle it. That was always my job, wasn't it? I didn't forget, I said simply. A pause. "So, you're not paying it?" "Nope." He sighed like I'd caused an earthquake. "She's gonna be mad." "She'll survive," I replied, and hung up. Every time I said no, something inside me grew stronger. My shoulders felt lighter. My wallet, for once, wasn't empty before payday. I bought myself a decent meal, steak, not noodles, and sat alone smiling like a fool. By the end of the month, Mom's tone had changed. Her texts got colder. "Mark, I don't know what's gotten into you. You've changed." She was right. I had. For years, I was the quiet helper. Now I was the quiet storm. And storms don't explain themselves. By the next month, the cracks started to show. Mom called me one evening, pretending everything was normal. "Mark, dear," she began sweetly, "the water company made some mistake. They say I haven't paid in 2 months. Could you check on that?" I almost smiled. I'm sure they'll sort it out if you call them. She hesitated. You always handle those things. You're better with money. Not anymore, I said gently. There was silence on the line, long enough for me to hear her breathing grow sharp. So you're just going to let me sit here without water? You'll figure it out, I said. You always told me to be independent. The next day, Anna texted, Mom's upset. Why are you being difficult? Luke added, she's stressed, man. Just help her out until things calm down. I didn't reply. Instead, I went for a walk. The air felt cool against my face, and for once, my steps didn't feel heavy. They could make excuses all they wanted, about bills, mistakes, misunderstandings, but I knew the truth. It wasn't about the money. It was about control. And I had finally stopped giving them both. It didn't take long for patience to turn into fury. Mom showed up at my apartment one evening, unannounced. I heard the sharp knock and knew it was her before I opened the door. What is wrong with you? She snapped, stepping inside without waiting. The house nearly lost power this week. You used to be dependable. I'm still dependable, I said calmly. Just not for the things you expect. Her eyes narrowed. Don't get smart with me, Mark. After everything I've done for you. I couldn't help it. I laughed. What exactly have you done for me lately, Mom? Her mouth dropped open. Excuse me. You call me useless, but I've been paying your bills for years. You just never noticed. She crossed her arms. So what? You think money makes you special? Families help each other. Exactly, I said. Families help each other. For the first time, she didn't have a reply. The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. She finally muttered, You've changed. I had to, I said quietly. You never left me another choice. She stormed out, slamming the door. But her words didn't hurt this time. They sounded like proof I was finally free. After Mom's visit, I expected to feel shaken. Instead, I felt steady, like the ground beneath me had finally stopped moving. For years, every argument left me drained and guilty. This time, I just sat down, made some tea, and breathed. The peace felt strange, almost foreign. No angry texts. No desperate calls for help. Just silence, and my own thoughts. I realized that silence wasn't empty. It was full of space I'd never given myself before. At work, my boss noticed the change. You seem lighter, Mark, he said. Everything all right? Better than ever, I replied. And I meant it. That week, I started saving properly. I even opened a small investment account, something I'd always put off because my money never stayed long enough. For once, my paycheck was mine. Mom tried calling again, but I didn't pick up. I knew how the conversation would go, shouting, guilt, blame. I wasn't walking back into that storm. Sometimes peace isn't something you find. It's what's left when you stop giving yourself away. And for the first time, I was learning to live in it. A week later, Anna called. She didn't start with a greeting, just a sigh. Mark, Mom's a mess. She says you've turned cold. I leaned back in my chair. Cold? Or finally fair? She hesitated. You know how she is. She just worries. You could have warned her before cutting everything off. I warned her for years, Anna, I said quietly. She just never listened. There was a pause on the line. Then her voice softened. Honestly. I kind of get it. Things have been tight lately. I didn't realize how much you were covering. Her words caught me off guard. It was the first time anyone had admitted it. I didn't mind helping, I said. But I can't keep doing it while being treated like garbage. I know, she said. Luke doesn't. He thinks you're being dramatic. I laughed under my breath. He would. Anna sighed again. I just don't want things to get worse. They already did, I said gently. Now they're just getting clearer. When we hung up, I sat for a while, staring at my phone. For the first time, someone in that family had seen me. And that, strangely, gave me hope. With the noise of my family fading, my days started to feel different, quieter, simpler, lighter. I woke up earlier, cooked real breakfasts, even started jogging again. It was strange how peace felt at first, almost too calm, like something was missing. But slowly, I realized what it was, the constant weight of everyone else's needs. At work, I focused better. I earned a small raise, enough to finally start planning a trip I'd always dreamed of. No one knew about it, and for once, I liked keeping something for myself. Weekends used to mean running errands for Mom, groceries, repairs, payments. Now, they meant time. I read books, met friends, laughed without checking my phone every 10 minutes. Still, some nights, I'd catch myself wondering if Mom missed me, or just missed my help. That thought used to hurt. Now, it just made me sigh. I was finally learning that love without respect isn't love, it's a transaction. And I was done being part of that trade. The more I built my own life, the more I realized something powerful. I had never been useless. I'd just been used. It started with texts, then came the letters. Handwritten, like she thought the ink would make her words softer. The first one began, "Mark, I don't know what's gotten into you." The second said, "A mother shouldn't have to beg her son to care." Each one carried the same tune, guilt wrapped in love. I read them all once, then tucked them in a drawer. I didn't reply. By the fourth letter, her tone changed. "You think you're better than us now," she wrote. "Don't forget who raised you." I folded that one neatly and slid it under the others. The drawer was filling fast, like a record of everything I used to tolerate. But one line from her fifth letter made me pause, "We can't keep up with the bills anymore. I hope you're happy." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered every insult, every time she called me worthless while living off my effort. No, I wasn't happy that she was struggling. I was just done feeling responsible for it. And that, for me, was peace. By the end of that month, the storm finally broke. Luke called first, angry and loud. "You've really done it now, Mark. Mom's losing it. The bills, the car, everything's falling apart." I kept my voice steady. "Then maybe it's time everyone started handling their own lives." "Don't play smart," he snapped. "You're part of this family." I said quietly. Until being part of it meant being everyone's wallet. He cursed under his breath and hung up. An hour later, Anna texted, "She wants a family meeting. Tonight. Please come." Part of me didn't want to go. But another part, the one that had stayed silent for too long, knew this was my moment. When I arrived at Mom's house, the tension was thick. Unpaid bills covered the counter. The power flickered like the house itself was nervous. Mom stood there, arms crossed. "You think you can just walk away from your family? After all we've done for you?" I met her eyes and said calmly, "Maybe it's time you find out what I've really done for you." The room went still. For the first time, they looked at me not as the quiet one, but as the one holding the truth. We sat around the same table where she once called me useless. The air was heavy, the silence sharp. Luke tapped his fingers, Anna kept glancing at me like she wanted to speak but couldn't. Mom finally broke the quiet. "Well," she said. "You've caused enough trouble. Say what you came to say." I looked at her, then at the stack of overdue bills. "You're angry because I stopped paying," I said. "But do any of you know how long I've been doing it?" Mom frowned. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. Bank statements, receipts, transfers. Every bill, every payment, for the last 5 years. Luke leaned forward, eyes widening. Anna covered her mouth. Mom picked up the papers with shaking hands. This can't be right. It is, I said softly. You called me useless while living off my work. Her face went pale. For once, she had no words. This isn't about money, I continued. It's about respect. You don't get to insult someone who kept your lights on. The silence that followed was deeper than any argument we'd ever had. And in that silence, I finally felt seen. Mom stared at the papers like they were written in another language. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Luke grabbed one of the receipts, his eyes scanning the numbers. Wait, he said, confused. You paid the mortgage? For 2 years. I nodded. And the car repairs. The medical bills. Even your credit card debt, Mom. Anna whispered, Mark, why didn't you say anything? Because I thought love didn't need proof, I said. Turns out, I was wrong. Mom's face hardened. You make it sound like we forced you. You didn't have to, I replied. You just made me feel like I owed you. She pushed the folder away. So what now? You want a medal? I shook my head. No. Just honesty. You called me useless, remember? I want you to say it now, knowing who's been holding this family together. Her eyes flickered with guilt, but pride held her tongue. Luke stood and muttered, I didn't know. I know, I said quietly. None of you did. That was the problem. For years, they saw me as nothing. Now they were staring at the proof that I'd been everything. No one spoke for a long time. The only sound was the old clock ticking on the wall. I could see it in their faces, shock, shame, confusion. It was like they were meeting me for the first time. Mom's hand trembled slightly as she set down the papers. You should have told me, she said at last. Her voice was softer, almost fragile. I did, I replied. Not with words, with actions. You just never wanted to see them. Luke leaned back, shaking his head. Man. I made fun of you for years. I gave a small shrug. I know. Anna's eyes were glassy. You did all this alone. Yeah, I said. And I stopped because it was killing me inside. No one argued. No one tried to defend themselves. It was the quietest moment our family had ever shared, and the truest. Mom finally whispered, I didn't mean what I said that night. I smiled faintly. Maybe not. But you still said it. The clock ticked again. For once, I wasn't the one shrinking in that house. They were the ones who couldn't meet my eyes. And that silence was the apology I'd waited for all my life. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No angry calls, no shouting, just silence heavy enough to fill the air. I half expected Mom to reach out, to say something, anything that sounded like sorry. But the message never came. Instead, she sent Luke to talk some sense into me. He showed up at my apartment, looking uncomfortable. Mom's embarrassed, he said. You really didn't have to humiliate her like that. I almost laughed. Humiliate her. All I did was tell the truth. He rubbed his neck. She's old, Mark. You could have been nicer about it. I looked him straight in the eye. I've spent my whole life being nice. It didn't earn me respect, it just made me easy to use. He had no reply. He just muttered something about family sticking together, and left. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it, feeling both lighter and lonelier. I didn't want revenge anymore. I just wanted peace. But peace, I was learning, doesn't always come with apologies. Sometimes it comes with the strength to stop waiting for one. And that was a lesson I'd needed all along. A week later, I went back to the house one last time. Not to fight, not to fix anything, just to close the chapter properly. The front yard looked the same, but the place felt smaller somehow, like time had shrunk it. Mom was in the kitchen when I walked in. She didn't look surprised to see me. "So," she said quietly, "you're really done helping us?" "Yes," I answered. "I am." She nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the floor. "You think that makes you strong?" "No," I said. "It makes me free." I placed an envelope on the table, my last contribution. It wasn't money this time. Inside was a note that said, "This is where I stop saving everyone but myself." She didn't open it. Didn't say a word. Just stood there, silent and still. I turned to leave, pausing at the doorway. "I don't hate you, Mom," I said softly. "I just finally love myself enough to walk away." Her eyes glistened, but pride held her back, as always. The door closed behind me with a quiet click. And for the first time in my life, that sound didn't hurt. It felt like peace. After that day, I stopped answering their calls. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. For years, my phone had been their emergency hotline. Now, it was silent, and that silence was priceless. Luke tried first. "Come on, man," he said in a voicemail. "Mom's struggling. Just a little help this time." I deleted it. Then Anna texted, "You've made your point. Can't you just move on?" But this was me moving on. I wasn't angry anymore, I was empty of obligation. I'd spent half my life funding other people's comfort, mistaking it for love. But love that depends on a payment isn't love, it's debt. One night, I sat with a cup of coffee and whispered to myself, "The Bank of Mark is closed." Saying it out loud felt powerful, like drawing a final line in the sand. I thought I'd miss them more. I didn't. I missed who I used to be before they broke me down. But that version of me was gone, and honestly, good riddance. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I was my own foundation. It didn't take long for things to crumble. Word spread through the family, Mom behind on bills, Luke selling his car, Anna moving back home. The same people who once mocked me were now struggling without that useless one. I didn't celebrate their hardship. But I couldn't deny the quiet satisfaction of watching reality do what I never could, teach them. One afternoon, Anna called. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. Her voice was tired. "Things are bad, Mark," she admitted. "Mom's trying to keep up, but it's rough." "I'm sorry," I said sincerely. "But this is what happens when one person carries everyone else." "I know," she whispered. "You were right." Those 4 words meant more than any apology. When I hung up, I looked around my apartment, small, clean, peaceful. Everything here, I had built myself. No guilt attached. No strings pulling me backward. Mom's world was falling apart, but for the first time, mine was finally standing tall. I didn't need to see them fail. I just needed to know I could survive without being their savior. And I had. The weeks that followed were the calmest of my life. My mornings started with sunlight instead of stress. I'd make coffee, open the window, and just breathe, simple things I'd forgotten how to enjoy. Without the constant weight of my family's needs, my mind felt clear. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since high school. The colors felt like freedom, each stroke a reminder that my time was finally mine. At work, I smiled more. My co-workers noticed. "You seem different," one said. "Happier." I answered. I finally stopped living for people who never saw me. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about Mom. Wonder if she was still angry, or maybe starting to understand. But then I'd remind myself, it wasn't my job to fix her anymore. Peace, I realized, isn't the absence of noise. It's the presence of boundaries. For the first time in years, I wasn't chasing approval or running from guilt. I was just living. And that was enough. The useless son had finally learned how to be useful to himself. It arrived on a quiet Thursday afternoon, a plain white envelope with my name written in her careful, looping handwriting. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The first line read, "Mark, I don't know where to begin." She wrote about the bills piling up, about Luke moving away, about Anna working double shifts. But beneath all that, her words felt different, less pride, more truth. "You were right," she admitted. "I didn't see how much you did for us. I thought keeping control meant keeping the family together. I was wrong." I read that line twice, maybe 3 times. My throat tightened. It wasn't a perfect apology, it never would be, but it was something. At the end, she wrote, "I don't expect you to come back. I just hope you're doing well. You always deserved more than I gave you." I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the same drawer that once held her guilt-filled notes. This one was different. It didn't demand or accuse. It simply let go. And so did I. For days, I kept Mom's letter on my desk, reading it again and again. Every time, I felt something shift inside me, anger fading into something quieter. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. I thought about calling her. I even picked up the phone once, thumb hovering over her name. But then I remembered how far I'd come, the peace I'd built, the strength it took to walk away. Forgiveness didn't have to mean returning. Sometimes it just meant releasing the grip of the past. So I sat down and wrote her back. My letter was short, "I'm okay, Mom. I hope you will be too. Take care of yourself." No accusations. No explanations. Just closure. When I dropped it in the mailbox, the wind felt warm against my face. I didn't know if she'd cry or smile reading it. Maybe both. But that wasn't my concern anymore. For the first time, I had a choice, and I chose peace. I wasn't the angry son or the quiet provider anymore. I was just Mark Bryan. Finally living for himself. It's been a year since everything changed. Sometimes, I still think about that night at the dinner table, the laughter, the word useless echoing in my ears. Back then, it felt like a wound I'd never heal from. Now, it feels like the moment I woke up. Mom and I talk occasionally. Our words are careful, polite, almost fragile. There's no pretending anymore, no hidden debts or guilt. Just distance, and maybe a little respect. It's enough. Luke still keeps his pride, and Anna visits sometimes, always quieter than before. She once told me, "You taught us something, Mark." I smiled but didn't ask what. I already knew. Life isn't about proving your worth to people who refuse to see it. It's about learning your value, even if no one claps for you. I used to think revenge meant making them feel what I felt. Now I know real revenge is peace, walking away with your head high while they finally face the truth. Mom once called me the most useless child. Now she knows better. And I didn't have to shout, fight, or beg to prove it. I just had to stop paying for her illusion. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.